most comprehensive and unambiguous, because the advantage that you get in deals is when you ensure that whatever you want from an acquirer's perspective, everything is there in the first draft that you send. If it's in the second draft, it becomes difficult to negotiate that point. So ensure that the first draft that you send is the draft which you would sign without looking at it. So it should be such type of draft, and also most important is the draft should be unambiguous, because the moment there is vagueness in the draft, you are opening the doors for litigation. Another important thing which we have found is integrated knowledge of legal and tax, both Indian and foreign, extremely important, especially for the advisors. Unless and until the advisor has a knowledge of both legal and tax, you will never be able to give a holistic picture of take a holistic picture of the entire transaction. What we have seen is people who know legal, they are not able to understand tax problems. People who know tax, they are not able to understand the legal problems. So there is no marriage of or integration of legal and the tax knowledge, on account of which we have seen at times some of the points are missed out by the advisors in some of the deals. Again, segregate issues in 3 categories before the negotiation meeting. Negotiation is an art where you need to spend a lot of time on planning before you actually go for a meeting. So segregate all the issues, maybe 20-30 issues, identify those issues and segregate in the form of giveaways, where you don't mind giving those away to the other side. Negotiables, where you can negotiate with minor tweaks here and there, and completely non-negotiable, where you can take a call to walk away from the deal. So if you are prepared with these 3, then you will come out of the negotiation room successfully. So this is extremely critical, because unless until you know yourself what you are willing to give and not willing to give, you will never be able to be happy at the end of the negotiation. And last is understand the desperation of the other party to do the deal. Again, extremely critical. You have to judge what the other party wants and look at, because at times we have seen that ridiculous demands also are at times met by the other party, which means that they are desperate to do the deal. So from an acquirer's perspective or seller's perspective, you should be able to understand the desperation which is there in the other party to do the deal, and based on that you can formulate your negotiation strategy. These are some of the deal breakers which over a period of time, based on my experience, I have come to know. I think the most important deal breaker is the breakup fee clause, which you will typically find in large M&A deals or deals where the sale is happening through an auction process. Here basically this clause is imposed by the seller on the buyer, where seller says that because I have spent so much time and effort in organizing the data room and going through the entire process of auction, negotiating with 10 different buyers, you are the chosen buyer, I have signed the deal with you. I want to ensure that this deal gets consummated at any cost. I don't want to go through the same process again. So if the deal does not go through because of some reason at your end, then I will charge you a breakup fee. So this clause, the most negotiated clause in large M&A deals, is very critical and has been deal breaker in some of the deals. Second, material adverse change clause. Especially this clause became the most important clause globally a couple of years back at the time of Lehman, when the fact that Lehman turmoil happened was considered as a material adverse change by a lot of buyers to wriggle out of the transaction. And there was a lot of disputes still going on based on this clause as to whether a global turmoil can be considered as a material adverse change or not, because at the end of the day the industry has got impacted, the world has got impacted, there is a recession, it is impacting the business. Can you claim that as a material adverse change? So that's where a lot of time in large M&A deals is spent on just the definition of material adverse change, what we call MAC, because if you are able to negotiate this properly, then you are half the battle is won as far as the document is concerned. Reps and warranties and disclosure letter, again depends on which side you are representing. From a seller's side, you can put a long list of limitation of liability running into 3-4 pages, such that the buyer will never be able to claim indemnity, even if he has that right under the agreement. From a buyer's perspective, you want the limitation as limited as possible and have the reps and warranties as broad as possible to cover as much as possible. So some of the tips on seller side is to use language like to the best of the knowledge of the sellers or the promoters. If you use that language, then you most of the times you get out of any claims which might come up, because you can always say that this was to the best of my knowledge, I didn't know this thing had happened. Or use of the word material rather than giving anything in complete accurate terms. You can say materially everything is good. Now again, this word is subject to court interpretation. From a buyer's perspective, you don't want such type of language like to the best of the knowledge or material in the document. Disclosure letter, extremely critical if you are representing a seller, because disclosure letter limits all the liabilities to the extent whatever is mentioned in the disclosure letter. Indemnities, very critical. Again, maximum time in the document is spent on indemnities in any deal. And there are certain principles of negotiating indemnity. Well, some of the important things are what is the period by which the indemnity would lapse, or some of the other things like the bucket for indemnity, the total cap on indemnity. So all those things become very important, especially tax indemnities have become extremely critical post Vodafone case, the E-Trade, the Aditya Birla and Mo case which has recently happened, where almost 30 to 40% of time we are spending on tax indemnities right now. And even for deals where a Mauritius entity is selling the shares of an Indian company, where we have a Supreme Court judgment of Azadi Bachao Andolan, it still holds true. So this is becoming one of the most important skill set which the clients are expecting from their law firm on how do they have requisite capabilities to negotiate tax indemnities. Non-compete, non-solicitation, again very important from a buyer's perspective. It does not want the seller to run the same business as his after selling. So how do you draft the language, because non-compete provisions under the Indian Contract Act are subject to certain issues on the enforceability side. So how do you draft the non-compete provision becomes critical. Control rights in case of part acquisition, where 51% is acquired by the acquirer and 49% still remains with the selling promoters. What are the control rights you want to give to the seller? In one of the deals we had interesting negotiations on this, where we were representing the sellers, and the buyer had acquired actually 60% on day one, and balance 40% was going to be acquired after 3 years.